confused. They said, hey, we just had a class last week. Well, that was just for the proposals, and we are going to be doing more proposals classes and different topics, and I don't want to make fun of that one person, but this is the second part of the applications class.
What the initials are.
So who just joined in? Someone eating their lunch. Okay. Anyways, before we get started, John would like to say a few words about some of the new structure that we're going to be talking about.
Nice intro. A couple of things. This is, I think, the fourth TAM training class we've done.
But who's coming?
But who's counting? But I want to be clear on a couple of things. One, these aren't episodes. We're not going to just do this and stop. This is something we are going to have continuously every month, and that is, I want everybody to be clear on what the company's procedures are, what our policies are, what our techniques are, because they're going to change and they're going to improve. But I also want to make sure that we're all just constantly refreshing ourselves. I also want to be clear about something. The procedures that we utilize for agency management aren't optional. Okay, if you have over time developed a workaround or some other method, I need you to stop. We need to figure out how to do it right. If you need separate and specific training, let's make sure to get it. But we desperately need all of us doing things the same way so that our results are the same. Can't say it more firmly than that. They're not optional. If you choose not to follow the procedures, you've chosen not to be a part of this team, okay? We can't continue doing things, everybody does it their own way. I want to hear what people have to say, and where we can make an improvement or where we can learn something from each other, we need to do it, but then we need to adopt it across the board. I can't have 10 different ways of doing the same thing, okay? Thank you.
So we're going to begin discussing a topic that has been discussed for a while in the policy screen with the sub-applications. Let me get out of here. Let me get to an actual client out of a customer. Did you want to start, or do you want to get out?
We started discussing this issue at the end of last training session, where we have billing screens. Like, for example, when we talk about our policies and our policy numbering, each individual policy will have its own policy line, and it will only have one policy line. There will not be subsections in all the policy lines. It's caused a major problem with anywhere from accounting to reporting purposes to, in the background, it adds additional policy screens that are affecting policy count, the handling of them, the moving of current to futures. It's been causing some problems quite a bit over the last several years, especially now that all the upgrades have happened. All the large agencies have adopted the same thing that we've been trying to adopt as well, where each policy line will have one. If you have a package, it's obvious it's more than one coverage. If you need to know what that is, you open the app, or you can even describe it on your billing screen, the note itself. But our agency has adopted the one line per policy, no subscreen. So this is part of the whole cleanup thing. So if you have any of these, and mostly how they developed was the way TAM has set up, when you move from prospects to customers, it would do that for you. It is something that they started a long time ago, and they're starting to go away from that philosophy because it hasn't really worked out real well in a long-term environment. So in future patches and in future things, it will become more and more evident that it's not going to be supported, nor will it work properly, like we saw in certificates or other things. When they become obsolete, they're not supported and they will not operate properly. So we've got to now make sure that all of our stuff is consistent, the same, and we got to start the cleanup process. And I know a lot of you do. All you have to do is screenshot it, send it to me, clean it up, it's done.
So for example, with this, the 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, Those all have the same policy number, so there should just be one entry there. And if you want to get to the liability or the aviation, you can go and jump to the app and look at that application. But there really aren't two policies. It's just one policy number. There's one policy, and there's applications and there's sections underneath that policy line, but there's only one policy. Does that make sense to everyone?
So basically, you guys don't have to actually do anything. I mean, what you have to do is send me the screens, because I have to physically go in and change it. Most of the old stuff is pretty much the way it's always been: one line, one subsect, one per account. It's when it's transferred from customer to prospects and prospects back. It's coming from the prospect end of it, not the customer end of it. Okay, so there are still some that are still like that. We just need to get them cleaned up before we go any farther with navigating to other areas of the upgrades as we go along. So when you open an account, you see that it has if it has more than just one at the end of something, print screen it, send to me. Okay? It can't have 2, 3, 4, or 5 at the end of a policy. It has to only say one. And we found in the past that people have been billing on the subsequent lines, and you can't get rid of them. Or they've moved coverage to another carrier. Oh, all they did was just change that other line. Well, no. That belonged to that package and will always remain with that package. Those areas are just hidden. They're still there. The apps are not gone. They're just a hidden section. You open up your app, they're all there. And if you accidentally delete one of those lines, guess what? You deleted the app, which has happened. So it's best that has one line, so that way, because we all cover each other's desks. We all get different accounts. We all need to do the same thing. And it's just becoming a problem. If somebody works on your stuff, accidentally does something on your account, and then you're stuck with it for the next 10 years. Okay, that has happened. And in getting to the point of weeding out all the old expired stuff that's only so many years old, it's just becoming more and more difficult. And also it takes up a lot more space on that screen when you're trying to look for policies. If you've got 17 or 20 policies and you've got so many sections in each one and it's duplicated 18 times, going through and trying to find the policy, okay, it's a navigational nightmare for everybody else, not just the person handling the account. Because more other departments do work on our accounts as well, not just us. So basically, when you see them, when you get them, usually people like Karen will do that. She'll send me a list. I just moved a prospect, sprints me the screen, sends it to me. I upgrade it right after she's done it. Tammy does the same thing. You've done it. Ron's done it. That's all you have to do. Just let me know which ones they are, or when it comes down to getting closer to time, if we haven't got them all cleaned up in the very near future, we'll run a report and do it for you.
We don't need to do that on the expired stuff that city comes.
Like the whole.
No way. Yeah.
Exactly.
We're just concerned moving forward. We want to keep it clean moving forward.
Is a fine going to stop it when you fix it, so when you move for prospect?
We have a PMRN. Their answer is, get Epic. So that's what they say to fix it. They're getting less and less willing to fix problems, because they've got the new system that they want everyone to move to.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we do have a PMRN for it.
Yeah.
Should we go through that real quick? Show everybody moving a line from a prospect and how that pulls over.
I'd like to see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So pull a test prospect. Well, how this happens is from that generating from a prospect to a customer. If you have a line of not I don't know if it's got any apps on that.
Okay, let me just see.
Because all lines of business have to have an app header. Because if you don't have an app header or section 125 Accord app that does not have your name, an address, all the information about your client, the description of operations, and your prior carriers. A lot of these apps that are individual apps don't have that information on it. You can't just have the app, the coverage app. You have to have an app header to go with it. And that's what generates an extra line or extra application in our system. Because you have to have it, because that other information doesn't exist. Because if you don't end up keeping the package over here in the auto, and you only end up renewing the auto, well then your name and address, client, prior carrier, and all that information, it no longer exists. Because you don't have that coverage anymore. So when you have an individual line of business, you have to have an app header that goes along with every single line or application that you have in a policy line. Okay? So
Let's do this one.
What about workers' comp, Patty?
Yes.
I don't,
yes.
Oh,
Every
even
line.
though it has prior carrier and name and address on the
Every-
workers' comp app,
Mhm.
we do a commercial
Yeah.
insurance app on there.
Yeah. Every line of business we write as
So
an app header.
duplicate all that information onto the commercial insurance.
Yeah. Every line of business is always supposed to have had an app 125 with it. So that's part of also cleanup because that matters later on. May not matter to you right now, but it will matter later on. They have to have that on there.
Like on the commercial umbrella, you know, when you market at the same time as your
Mhm.
package, can you set one up and for the prior carrier info, say C,
Mm-hmm.
the other, so you don't have to retype all that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's got to have the name and address information about the client description of operations. That's the main key here, is the information about
Oh,
the
so I
client.
don't have to have prior carrier information.
No, if you've got it on your package,
On the workers' comp, I don't have to have
because
prior
it's,
carrier information.
because it's on the work comp, it has to be on there, tied together on that app. But you do have to have all the other name and address and all that kind of stuff, and description of locations on a client. Not necessarily the prior carrier, because it's already on a work comp app, but the other stuff has to be there.
Yeah, and we'll shoot out an email after the class on what has to be in those header apps so that people know what exactly needs to be in there.
Yeah, and if you're working on a prospect, you would normally have that, move it over that many times anyway, and would already be there. You do it one time, you move it as many times as you have a policy. It's already there,
I'm
okay?
old, you know, I'm still of the era when I hand wrote apps.
Mm-hmm,
A header, is that just a 125?
yep,
Okay.
that's what we call them, app headers or section 125s or whatever they're, well, not section 125, because that's actually a benefits thing, but app 125. Yeah, you know what I meant.
I'm section 8.
Section 8. So he's going to move. He's got a prospect just bound the auto. We're going to move that app. And we're just going to move that one single line of coverage. Remember when you're moving applications, we talked about this. Uncheck it if you're moving it multiple times. Otherwise, if you keep that checked, that section that he just unchecked up there on the left, if you keep it checked, it will duplicate it as many times as you've moved it. It'll duplicate triple, quadruple, whatever your every attachment, memo, info, note. Move it one time, that section. Okay, not multiple times over and over and over and over again. Because that can create duplications of all kinds of stuff. If you're moving them, you know, if you've got like a package, you bound 4 policies and you got to move them 4 times, uncheck that until your last move. And then once your last move is, duplicate all your, move all your stuff over. Okay?
Can I ask a question on that?
Uh-huh.
What if you say you have your prospect and you have your multiple policies and you only get the order on one of them?
Right.
So you're gonna, when you eventually move your attachments, I mean, if you're only moving one thing, you would want to move all those
Yes.
items.
Yeah, it just depends on what you're doing at that time.
So it would have all the items on the things that you didn't get the order on, like all the attachments.
Yeah.
When you're doing the attachment, if you're attaching it to that policy,
Which I always do.
Okay,
So
good.
if I attach it to a specific policy, will it only move the attachments associated with that policy, or does it move all of them?
Well, a lot of times in prospects, if you write a certain amount of coverage, you're usually using one app to market everything. You may not get everything. So attaching it moves. It's going to move everything.
You're
that was,
right.
Yeah. so there, and again, you would end up having to move that stuff that's in there if you want it in there. You can also,
Thank you for moving those away from me.
delete the stuff that you don't want when you get it to
Take
customers,
this
because you
from
can do
2.
that.
Just move this from 2.
You know,
We can.
yes, you can. You can delete an attachment when
No,
you
I can't.
any customers. Okay.
We don't
I mean,
have
you
the
can't-
rights to delete anything.
Not policies and activities, but it should be
We
attachments.
cannot delete any attachment.
Maybe.
No, we can't even edit the name of our attachment.
Well, no, you can't do that.
If
You
you
have to
make
advise
a
us.
mistake on what you
Yeah.
call something, we have to say that
Yeah,
you had
okay.
it fixed.
All right. Well, we'll talk about that when the attachment class comes in. But yes, I would move, if you're going to write something, move your stuff that you need moved. You know, if you only write a part of it, make sure you move it at the time you're making your last move. Don't delete it unless you really want to delete everything attached to this prospect. Okay? That button right there in the middle is real important. You only use that button when it's the last move you make and you don't want anything left on a prospect. If you do, don't check that box.
It
Okay?
deletes the prospect itself.
It deletes everything.
sort of. I've had people do this and call me If you do this, you can either call me. I'd love to talk to you guys, or you move it back from clients to prospect and don't check that box, and it'll bring it across.
Yeah.
So I've had a couple people.
So it can be
Do that.
retrieved, but just
Yeah.
be real careful. This is the move slow through this area
Yeah, should
warning. Not don't click and go real fast. Make sure you make sure you want to do what you want to do. That's okay. So anyway, so he's going to move that. See how down below number 6 it says AILB app and commercial auto down below. The AILB is the app header, and then there's the auto app. So you see how it's got 2 sections in prospect all of a sudden?
What does AILB stand for?
It's a coding that TAM puts in.
Aircraft.
Aircraft insurance.
Aircraft like it's a weird, and sometimes it moves over as 5500, sometimes it moves as ADLR.
Really?
Yeah, that's why it's just a glitch in their prospecting moving, and we've talked to them about it. Like I said, we have a PMR and we talk to them about it all the time. I mean, you're going to end up having to edit this anyway, no matter what it says, because it has to be edited, no matter what. Okay, so it doesn't really matter, so to speak, what it comes over as, because it's going to have to be edited. The first line always has to be edited. So hit OK. And remember, in clients and in prospects, the codes are not the same. They come from 2 different databases. If you have one client number and customer, that's one number, and a prospects is a different number, it may not be the same. Always look. Always make sure that's the right one you're picking and choosing to move it to. The computer assigns it. So you have to make sure that's the right client number. For prospects and customers are different numbering.
So, if I have a prospect
Mm-hmm.
and he becomes a client,
Mm-hmm.
why wouldn't I want to use the same client number?
You would. But
But you
oftentimes
can't,
somebody just put
they're
a customer in.
It's already in
Somebody
use.
already used that code without going
He's
through
already
prospect.
used like
Oh, I
client
see.
1, so you've got to make it client 2 or
Even though in prospects you show as,
Mm-hmm.
the 2 different databases.
okay,
That's why eventually when we ever move to future things, and hopefully they'll change. But right now, 2 databases. That's why things
Okay.
work differently in prospects than they work in clients. They are different.
and so when you get this message says customer already exists, that means that customer name is already in use.
Code.
Because I selected that customer name.
Not the name.
Okay.
Because it pops up with a box.
Okay, now if you were to do that, and just
Mhm.
help me with this, if you were to do that by accident,
Mhm.
yeah,
We've all done it.
I can see me doing this in a heartbeat.
Mhm.
Then what happens to that customer that you just merged all this into?
It gets it.
Clean it up.
You can move it back to prospects if you move it into you move things as freely as you want in and out of prospects.
So that policy that I inadvertently moved into
Yeah.
the wrong client, you can move back.
Move
out.
back to prospects. Yeah.
But how about all the attachments?
Yes.
That's stuck in there.
They get stuck. All the attachments would get stuck there,
Mhm.
right?
They can, yes, and yes, I've had to clean them up. Yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
we'll delete them.
Oh, so there's more
work
than
on
just a
that.
little bit of drive slowly in this part then.
That's what I said.
Okay.
This whole area, the moving stuff, concentrate and read. So hit OK. So now he's just moved that part over to the customer side.
I've got to go to customers.
Continue down below.
Actually, let me go over here because I moved it to a different client. I was messing around.
Okay, why are you doing
What's that?
that? Why don't you do that?
You don't want me to do that?
I don't care. Okay, so he moved this over, and look what happens when it moves over to it's policy number 400001. The first line comes over as whatever the computer system assigns it, weird ass name. Your number 1, because it ends in 1, that is going to be your lead line. That has to be what your coverage is on. So that is always you always edit that, right? You know, click on it, edit it to be the auto or whatever coverage it is. At this point, you could screenshot it, send it to me, or you could screenshot it after you've already changed that first line. I don't care. I don't care how you get it to me. It doesn't really matter in which step it is, but it has to be once you get in here so I know which one it is you need to change. Anything that does not have a 1 at the end will be hidden. It'll still be there, but it will be hidden. Okay?
So this 40,001
Uh-huh.
is the app header, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The auto app appears to be this 40,002. Where does it go?
They're both on
They're both on both.
both.
So let's show that real quick. It's always fun to have John in the class. Okay, so let's go.
No, it's not.
Here, pull up that header.
So I'm going to open, and we're going to see we have the app. See, it's in blue. It's highlighted. Anything that's highlighted in blue, there's an app in the client for that.
You do
Or bolded for you.
right?
Bolded, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So, and if I get out of here and I go back to commercial auto, the 40,002. We'll see that we also have that in both locations.
Yeah, it's in both places. So it's
So
not,
you basically have double the data
yeah,
to do this?
yes.
Size-wise, it's not large. I mean, the Acord forms aren't large in the system, but you can see what a cleanup mess it becomes if
Yeah.
we
If you
don't
have
stay on top of it.
3,500 clients times however many policies times how many.
Yep, how many subsections, times, yes.
Yeah.
That's the logistic nightmare right there. So normally we would update number 40,001 to be the coverage that's supposed to be package, auto, whatever it may be.
Airstrip liability.
Yeah, airstrip
You
liability.
know, I don't think I've ever written that.
Yeah. And update it with your whatever your right information. It says, do you want to reflect those changes? You say yes.
Why
And-
wouldn't you say yes? Why doesn't it even ask you that question?
Maybe you typed something wrong.
It doesn't really matter because number 2 is going to be deleted anyway.
It's
so
going to be
it
hidden.
really doesn't
It's not
matter.
technically deleted, it's hidden. Okay, the coverage is still there, the apps are still there, nothing goes away except the look of this page.
And so then
Patty.
we take
Yep.
a screenshot of this.
Wait, did somebody have a question on where it went?
You won't see
Well-
it. We won't see it.
You can get to it, though, from going into...
You can get to the app.
Yeah, you can get to the
Yeah,
The
application.
lines deleted.
Yeah, so nothing's deleted. It's just the line on this screen is deleted. So just think of it that way. Just so this gets cleaned up. And the one of the problems too with this is anytime there should only be one entry per policy number, and what it does is it adds an additional billing screen, and that's where a lot of problems come in. The commission gets entered wrong, or if you have double the data, you have double the chances for mistakes. So
And it has happened a lot. Surprisingly
Quite a
enough,
bit.
it's a lot. And it's become a major difficulty in handling this stuff going forward.
okay,
So in this case, this is where at the point in time, you can, like I said, you can screenshot it at any one point in time. It doesn't really matter when it is. It's after you get to the customer level. And at that point, you just print screen it, email it to me, and I'll, Karen sent me like a booklet the other day of, 25. And, they're done. Yeah, she did.
Careful what you ask for, you might get it.
Oh yeah, Ron sent me a whole bunch the other day. And it doesn't matter
More
what
coming.
screens you're in. If anything needs to be
More to
corrected
follow.
in any screen, same thing. Print screen it and just send it to me. I usually try and do them in the early morning or in the afternoons or, whenever I'm doing all my fixes for everybody. So what'll happen is this line will go, you won't see it. The app won't go away, the app will not be deleted. Okay, no apps get deleted in this process. If you have a tendency or somebody else has deleted an app, yes, it will go away. If I deleted this policy right now, as it is, with that coding on there, without changing that coding and updating it for you, yes, the application will go away.
Wait. Updating what coding?
I have to change the code, the CAUT code on that second line to a different code. If you do not, it will delete the app associated with that code.
No kidding.
yeah,
That's why
So do you just
people,
put gibberish in there, or what do
Yeah.
you do? Okay.
ABIA or.
Or-
Like
I use the airstrip one. I think that's a good one.
that's why they don't allow people to delete policy lines, because their apps go with them. We originally had people deleting their own stuff, and there was one too many times that we've had people screaming, "Oh my God, delete my app! Oh my God, I reload my app! Oh my God!" They eliminated everybody having the ability to delete policy lines for that very reason. Because people start hitting delete and delete and forgetting to change codes, forgetting to do stuff. It's very easy to do, so it just eliminates
Okay.
less error. So when you run across them or whatever, send them over. And then we are starting the cleanup process. There's going to be a lot of other things that we're going to be cleaning up besides billing screens of a client. Also, as we've talked about before, the individual, when you double click and get into them, the individual billing screens inside, getting our carriers the right code. We've had a couple of changes, because all the statements are coming out with one code. All of our travelers is one code, all of our Golden Eagles one code, all of our stuff is one code. You know what I mean? So we're going to eventually start doing that a lot more. We're all going to have one billing company code on a lot of ours, because over the years they've had buyouts of companies, change of company names, whatever. And it's becoming too cumbersome for accounting to issue checks and statements, having to issue 5 checks to go with one statement, because all the different billing company codes are all different. Okay? So those are the kind of cleanup we're doing. We're doing this kind of cleanup, billing screen cleanup, issuing a billing company screen cleanup, commissions, that type of stuff. And then once, we finally get to that point, however long that's going to take, then they'll all be the same. So anybody sits down at any desk, it's all the same.
Yeah, just for, you probably already know this, but I learned it the hard way. When I started a couple of years ago meeting with the carriers, talking about what our performance was, what our projections were, I was startled to find that they had data way different from what we had, or what I had anyway, that I thought I knew what I was getting. What I mean by that is to that billing code versus issuing company code. Over the years, we'd accumulated a lot of different billing company codes, and probably the most noteworthy of those, at least that I can remember right now, was Travelers. We have a Travelers code. We have an old Aetna fire and casualty code. We had St. Paul. We had, there were 5 or 6 billing company codes for Travelers. And so I pulled what I thought was our production for Travelers, went to the meeting, and was pleasantly surprised to find out that they think we have a whole lot more business with them than I thought we had. So the meeting went a lot better than I was prepared for. But then I felt like an idiot when Kyle says, well, because you didn't do all the Travelers companies. I said, well, I thought you were only supposed to. So this is an issue that kind of puts us at a little bit of a disadvantage until we get it all cleaned up. And the reason it puts us at a disadvantage is I'd like very much to be able to sit in a meeting with Travelers and have what I know our production to be compared to what they have, and be able to have an intelligent conversation on why it is that maybe the numbers aren't what they think they are or what I think they are, but understand how we interpret the data that they have and we have. Right now we are at a deficit. We've got to depend entirely on what they tell us and hope that they're giving us the full picture. So that's one piece. The other, and that, quite frankly, is mostly historical stuff. More importantly, though, as we get down the path, it will also help me to be more, not so much me, Mar, be more effective in forecasting and projecting for folks what we expect to do. And so I know, again, like a lot of things we've talked about in these meetings, there are some steps we're going to have to take that are probably in the short term going to be a little more work. But in the long run, it's going to be a lot less. Not just for me, although I would like that, but also for you. Because if we get more simplified, instead of having to scroll through hundreds of potential billing companies, I'd like you to scroll through just those that are the real ones. The problem, though, is from this database is we got to clean that up. We can't simply delete an old billing code. We do that, and then all the history goes away, and all of the other stuff that I would need in order to try to run the place goes away with it.
And also, if we're going to start doing our downloads with our carriers, they have to have the same code. They can't download to us because we don't have consistent codes, so nothing matches, and they can't get the data to us because we're all using different codes. And we're not supposed to be using issuing carrier codes under the billing company. Be careful with that too. Only issuing companies are in the issuing company field, billing companies are in the billing company code. So, and we aren't able to do any downloads with a lot of our carriers, as we found out, because of that. That's one of the very reasons we aren't able to go forward with some of our carriers, because our data is wrong, or not wrong, but inaccurate, or whatever. So it is wrong. Yeah.
What you saying?
But that's another very big reason. So we'd like to be able to do that with some of our carriers, but we aren't able to at this point because they can't integrate with us. Same, and we'll get down to policy numbers eventually as well. So as we get closer to being able to download with our carriers, which obviously would help a lot of us, we're going to have to get it to the point where they can work with us on the stuff. And it's all, how the codes shit in, shit out. Basically, that's what it looks like.
Okay.
If we input it all various different ways and not consistent, that's what happens.
What about all the hyphens, dashes that they use that we don't use?
Well, every carrier is going to be different with that. We're going to have to use, if we're downloading with them, their formatting.
Who's there for that?
If they use hyphen, dashes, commas, periods, or whatever in their policy numbers, let's say travelers, we will have to migrate to the same thing. If they don't, and we have to eliminate ours.
What
So-
about all the travelers' policies that start with numbers they don't use when they refer to policy number? They start with their THX or their IJUV, but they won't start with the B 4920.
That's right. A lot of them will be the shortened versions. Mhm.
And then at the end, it's TIL
Yeah.
11.
Which,
That
you know,
was so screwed up.
It's
You know,
not even any.
that just tells them what office it was issued under, what side of the country it's on, what
There's-
branch it was
there's like
select or
4
not.
digits in front of the policy number on the policy, but in their system, they leave off these and only do.
So we're supposed
Golden
to
Eagle
put all
does that too.
those in?
Golden Eagle's
No.
got CBP
What are we
for their
supposed to
packet
put
policy,
on
but you
in our
only use the
system?
802.96.47 when you go
Oh,
in
we
their
don't
system
know?
on their
No,
website.
not until we can get our stuff done to the least that carriers can migrate, then we won't know what way in which they want us to issue it. We can't even get to that point yet.
Well, and
We just need to get to this point first. Get these numbering right, get our carriers right, before we can even find out how it's going to integrate and which version they're going to use. We can't even get to that point yet. It's not even a discussion at this point.
well, but it's something that the answer is, because I've watched the way Personal Lines has done this, is you'll get, if our convention for the policy number is wrong, then it'll end up in a bucket for exceptions where it can't find where it's supposed to go. That stuff we will distribute to the individual who that client is attached to. You'll see in their string how they number the policy. All you have to do now is update your policy number, and that's the easiest clue that I've watched. That Personal Lines have a whole litany of policies, right? But they've done really wonderfully at continuing to minimize the number of exceptions to the point where it's very few, because each time you do
We
it,
should have less than Personal Lines.
a lot less.
So why can't we do it?
Well, we're getting to that point.
We have to
will.
we have more carriers, and as a result of the more carriers, we have more confusion as far as the codes are concerned. Until we can get that resolved, it would be a fool's errand. They'd all be exceptions.
And we'd be spending some, So, but we're going to get there eventually.
But believe me, I want to get there
Yeah.
soon as possible.
Right. So,
We did it with Hartford, though, right?
Correct, because we have no history with them.
Right.
Love
Right,
that.
so we're
Love that. So maybe
I
we should
know I
start.
don't have one with them yet either to see what it looks like, but.
Any other new carriers that we should get?
That's-
We should see those next.
because we're starting out fresh, we're starting out with one code, one way, one deal,
Yeah.
one yeah.
So
And
that's working?
As far as I know, I don't know.
don't
I
even
haven't tested it yet.
Nobody's downloaded anything yet.
So,
That's perfect.
yeah.
No problem.
So anyway,
Well, I'll say that we made the one thing we're really excited about with Hartford, not to get digressed, but this is really cool stuff. Is Mar, Ron Echeverry, the whole group of us really drug our feet with Hartford for a long time, making absolutely sure we were going to be convinced that they would make a difference and it was worthwhile, because we didn't want to move business from somebody that's already been our partner for a long time just because they're the shiny new game in town. So we made for this room only, ridiculously low commitment on terms of what we were going to produce in the first year. And we exceeded the number in the first month. So while I'm very happy about that, they are pretty sure we sandbagged them.
your next contract will change. Yeah.
First blow.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that not the 12, but the 13 conversation probably aren't going to buy whatever I tell them as the first commitment on business. So,
Yeah.
but those are always great problems to have, right? Gosh, I've never ever in my life got in trouble from anybody for doing better than we said we were going to do. Anyway, sorry to get you off the topic.
That's what we do. So anyway, there's going to be probably subject matter of cleanup, so to speak, in probably each one of our meetings as we go along, or subsequent interim meetings or emails or whatever. So there's going to be that, and we are going to have to continue to move forward on that, and fairly quickly. Otherwise, it's just going to keep causing lots of problems. So we talked about executive liability when we went to have that proposal class. That Kyle has set up one where we'll poll the information into the proposal will have its own executive liability, either for your D&O, EPLI, fiduciary. You can change the name, whatever it's going to be, but it is a liability. All coverages, no matter if they're Accord apps or not, need to be in the system in an Accord app semi-version. That's what we call the shell apps. There's very little information in there, but there is enough to get you and get claims, certificates, proposals, summaries into somewhat of a format. So if you have a D&O, an EPLI, a pollution, or whatever, a liability, if it's a liability coverage, you need to have an app header, no matter what, because it has name and address of the client, prior carrier, blah, blah, blah. You have to have that no matter what coverage you're writing. And a liability app. The shell app on a liability app for a D&O, EPLI, there's like 5 different boxes you fill out. You don't do the full app, obviously, because it doesn't apply. But you have to have a per occurrence for each claim, an aggregate, a retro date, the name, the deductible. 5 or 6 spots, and then there's always the remarks section of an app. You can type in your free-form stuff so that when claims gets a claim, they know what to pull. You got to do a proposal, it'll pull the note section in, or notepad or whatever. But we need to start utilizing those so that anybody else can know what we've got. So that's what we call our shell applications.
So a general liability app and a commercial insurance app on any of those.
Any of those liabilities, yeah. And then you just, but the app header, of course, obviously that's the information you got to have no matter what on all clients. Name, address, phone number, blah, blah, blah. But just the shell app has to be on the liability, the general liability one.
I don't have any commercial insurance apps on my workers' comp right now to start doing that.
At renewal.
Everything's, I can't do them all today. So.
Yeah, don't bother. I mean, literally, to the extent that it keeps us from being able to do something, that stuff will tell you what you need to clean up. But something like that, just begin with renewal, getting the things brought up to the standard we need. That's fine. Okay, I don't need you wasting time going back to fill in the blanks. We don't need it for historical purposes. I just need to make sure that we have it for going forward purposes, because something we do want to do is move out of TAM. Applied has a new agency management system called Epic. An awful lot, from what I've seen, more user-friendly, more intuitive, a lot of good things to it. The bad news is that unless we get our act together with this stuff, we can't possibly even entertain making that transition. We need double the staff to do nothing but double the data entry. We need the data to be able to move from TAM's database into the different agency management system. And unless we get the data clean to the point where it can move, we can't do it. So we're hostage. That's why these things are so important, and why these procedures, while seemingly rigid, are necessary. Okay?
Yeah, and while I've been talking to people for about a year about Epic, and if you don't do these things, and we talked to a lot of people who went through the migration process already. You move to the system, you just don't have you lose all your property schedules, you lose all your vehicle schedules, all your subjects of insurance are gone. So it's important that all these things are standardized. That'll make the process less painful for us, and the maximum amount of information come across.
Less pain, not pain-free.
You see, you notice that?
Yeah, I noticed that.
So anyway, the shell, if anybody has any questions how to just do a shell app on a
Can you show me?
okay. Go to policy. Let's equal app. Granted, he's in customers right now instead of prospects. Same concept, but
I'm sure we're going to write it.
yeah, okay. Yeah.
That's what we all say.
I have heard that one before, and then I get the call. I need to move this out of here because we did technically write that, and I coded it to quoting.
Does that? I mean, that is doable though. If somebody makes a mistake and does it, enters it in.
Hey, just move it off the prospect and get it off of there.
All right.
Yeah.
How much do you want me to fill out?
You're joking, right? You think CNA's going to write an EPL?
They're the ones that have pulled out of the marketplace.
You
Just hit
have
OK.
See if you guys.
Now go ahead and do your app. Go and then options for an app. Now, when you choose the code EPLI, yes, it's going to go to the app header because that's It doesn't know, there is no Accord EPLI app at this point.
Right.
Epic is working on a lot of these custom type apps that will migrate over. That's why these shell apps have to be in. Okay? So you got your app header, and basically, you know, name, address, phone number, whatever. You fill all your information about your client, you're happy as a clam, whatever. Now, there are two choices here, which eventually that first choice will go away. We do not use, nor will we ever use at this point in time, non-simplified forms. Do not hit that box, because the apps won't come across correctly. We don't use non-simplified of any kind in GL or Umbrella. Okay?
Why is that option even there?
Because TAM, it still has that in the TAM database. When they migrate over in one of the future ones, that option will go away.
I see. We can't make that go away.
No, that's why we need to choose, just be sure you choose simplified.
Okay.
If you don't, you have to get that app, you just go back in, delete it, and add the app. I mean, it's fixable. It's not like, you know,
I understand.
going to ruin the world.
I understand, but it just seems like if it's not something we want to use, why do we have to have it as an option?
In this box here, we, quite a while ago, set up some pre-filled type program business where it would fill in certain applications and certain coverages for us. ChemDrive being one of them, and that security program for another. That's what those two are for.
Please don't give me that headache.
They're no good. Please don't use them. I mean, ChemDrive still uses theirs, but you just hit cancel. Don't hit OK.
What? Can't get rid of that box popping up?
I haven't added a GL app for a while. I didn't know about that, so let me take a look at that.
The box pops up all the time.
Does it?
But
Yeah.
ChemDrive does use them.
Pop up.
Yeah, ChemDrive does have to
Tammy
use
uses
them.
them. Okay.
Them use it, but,
Okay. Well, I'll see if we can get rid of.
Specific.
User defined.
yeah.
Pre-filled form box.
ChemDrive app, then give them the ChemDrive box app.
Yeah. So you would hit cancel
There you go.
at this point in time because right now we can't get rid of it. So it will pull you to a GL app. So page down or use your tabs or whatever you want to your next. Oh, too many. One more back up. Right here. You got your options box here. You don't hit the GL box because it's not technically generalizability, but you hit the box, the radio button for claims made. So that way claims and everybody else knows this is a claims made policy, not an occurrence form. So you would hit the radio button, claims made. And then in the other box, 2 dots down, you have to check that box. And type DNO or EPLI or fiduciary. You've only got
It's
6
an
You call it an EPL though.
or whatever it is, EPLI. Okay, do you want me to type while you text or on your
I'm
phone?
not texting.
And emailing?
Texting.
And we could get you guys some marriage counseling.
Yeah. EPLI.
Ain't gonna do any good.
EPLI.
He's
Kyle.
thinking still.
Where do you
Remember?
see?
Right where you're at,
Where your
EPLI.
cursor is.
Okay.
It's not
okay.
DNO,
Okay.
it's EPLI.
Gosh.
Like I said, would you like me to type? Okay.
I was looking for it on the
This is
screen.
actually entertaining. Thank you.
Basically, the limits that
It's
you
almost
want.
much fun in a week.
Yeah, the limits you want to complete here are basically your general ag, which is basically your policy ag. 1 million. Yeah. And then your each occurrence
Wow,
box.
big follows.
Wow. You can put commas in if you want or not, whatever. I don't put them in.
No, that's
That's
easy.
an option.
That's $1 million. We only have 100,000 up there.
Kyle, you're missing a 0.
Okay, and then each occurrence,
I'm not gonna run here.
the blocks is down.
You don't really put commas in your.
No, I don't.
Nobody puts commas.
I
No,
do.
you're not really supposed
You
to.
do?
It's just, yeah.
To do all. I go back at other people's apps. I'll put
Then you
it
have your deductible box down below over there. You could have a BIPD deductible, or 95% of the time it's an SIR.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you have your free fill box or whatever. You hit other and you type SIR, and then you fill in the amount next to it. No, in the box next to
The next
it.
box.
5,000, 10,000, whatever, and it's per claim.
Claim usually.
Most of the time it's per claim, but it could be a per occurrence. Please read the quotes. Please read the policies. Whatever. Make sure they're right. Don't fill in the premium box over there. It doesn't mean anything. So now you can hit page down. You can also use what I like to use a lot, the other coverage box, where people can see information. You can put in 10 lines of coverages here if you want to D&O is a million. EPLI is a million with a 10,000. If fiduciary is only 10,000 with a 10,000 deductible. You could kind of separate your limits here and your deductibles by 10 lines of this information, okay? Because it does give you a limit and a deductible. You have a question?
I wasn't.
No.
I don't know.
Okay. And it also tells you if you have other weird apps, but that's usually for your non-owned hired auto. Obviously, it tells you don't use your GL app anymore because they changed doing that and use your auto app. But you could do 10 lines of information here. Page down. Hazards, you're not going to really use too much in here unless you have a policy like EPLI sometimes will be based on the number of employees or part-time, full-time, or whatever.
So if hired and auto is included in the GL, you don't put it in the GL?
No, it's on an auto app.
It's on an auto app, even if it's included in the GL and not written as a separate line.
Yeah, it's in the package. Like when you do a package, it'll be you have a property GL and it'll have an auto. In the auto, you just have symbol 8 and 9 in the limit.
But in the
So you don't match the policy. Because if it's part of the GL, then you don't have another section.
But the GL app tells you if you have auto attached to a GL, you use the auto app.
It says that.
Yeah, it says that on that page right there.
Auto coverage is attached to it. See?
It's because they changed when they changed the version of the GL app about 3 or 4 years ago. That option used to be on the app. Now it's not.
It's a separate auto app.
Because they put employee benefits on that line instead of the non-owned hired line.
Because sometimes it's not a separate line.
It's the same.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, not only does it not matter, there is an issue though, there is a coverage difference. And that is in the hired and non-owned auto, there is no aggregate. No matter what the GL policy may say, hired and non-owned is an auto form. Even if it's buried inside your GL policy, read the endorsement, which modifies the GL to include auto coverage. Auto liability never has and never will have an aggregate. It's per occurrence, period. It doesn't matter if you have 97 employees in that year that are using their own vehicles in business who have $1 million claims. I'm sure the carrier would cancel before that occurred, but I'm trying to be ridiculous in the example. The point is that is an actual auto coverage. So no matter what the deck page of your GL policy says about your limit per occurrence and in the aggregate, that can apply to your hired and non-owned. Okay?
So
But if you could, hazards, you said that.
we're going to go to the next section.
Okay.
Okay, so if you page down in this section here, you could put a premium basis or exposure. It's another field that you can kind of
If it's per employee
manipulate.
rated or something like
Right,
that.
you could
okay.
put that in here. A lot of times you won't have anything like that. It's just limits and it is what it is. So this section may or may not ever really be filled out in the shell applications. But a lot of times if you have EPLI, they have numbers of employees that they base it on, and usually you have to put that in here. Then you page down. This is where your claims made section comes in. You must fill in your retro dates, so that way it pulls, so that way they know when that coverage first started. And a lot of times if you have history apps that have certain retro dates on them, some carriers will make them they will go back to a certain date, and sometimes they write them, sorry, we're not going to buy back the retro dates. You got to start a new retro date. So you'll know when those prior apps have retro dates on them, and one if it starts at the new year and on the inception date.
Okay, so we're still in EPL at the moment, right?
Yeah,
Because that's what this policy is going to be. So we put in the retro date of whatever it is.
Yeah.
Item 2, this is the continuity date, or what's the?
Sometimes you may or may not know that. Sometimes it's the same.
But I mean, is the entry? If that's what they're asking for here, is the continuity date?
Yeah.
Okay.
Prior opinion, yeah. So,
You don't have to fill this out if you already have all the information on the second screen.
no, the retro date has to be on there.
No, on the second screen we put the coverages and all, sometimes I put everything on there.
The
Like
retro,
date, everything.
but you have to have the retro date on there.
No.
If
I'm
you don't
talking
put-
about the second, the one where you put all your.
I understand what you're saying, but on this screen, the reason you need to put the retro date is that that's what claims is going to. This is what's going to help claims find out what this policy's retroactive date is, no matter what you put in the notes on that first screen.
Well, they need to look,
No.
yeah,
Look
sometimes
at
you
the
have
same
multiple,
place,
they
they'll
need to
find it.
look at the whole thing.
Right, they should look at the whole thing, and it's good to put them in both places.
Okay.
I agree with you on that. I do put mine as
Yeah, because
well.
I always put it on the.
Yeah.
The
A
box.
summary on the.
Yeah. on the
Okay.
box,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, on that other box, or even in the remarks box.
Or in the notepad.
Notepad's a good place. These are just, like I said, they're just shells. They're not absolute ones because they don't really conform to a lot of things, but they got to have something. We've got to be more consistent, have something in there. Eventually, there will be a way to migrate this stuff to
Well,
the
if
custom apps.
If you put a date in there, then it's kind of misleading. You have multiple dates.
Well, if you have multiple dates, then you would leave this blank, and then you on number 3 or on the previous page say see remarks. You have to put some kind of notation in there for somebody to be able to read it.
When you have multiple dates, are you referring to where the retro date applies as somebody bought higher limits?
Mhm.
You know,
Or I had you added a name insurance.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, you could have a whole
Yeah, well,
litany
I
of things.
understand.
Yeah.
I was just trying to be
Yeah.
sure I understood what the,
Mhm.
Like Safeco added EPL coverage in '07 to
Mhm.
their packages, so if you had coverage prior with them, you're, like I have one more employee benefit liability has a retro date back to '04, but EPL has called a retro date back to '07, because that's when they started
I see.
giving that coverage to their clients.
In that
Okay.
case, you could put your EPL life at the top part of the claims made because the box down below EPL has their own retro dates box.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
So employee benefits has its own box, has its own information, it's its own retro date. So when you have that, use that box, everything else use the other box, and then obviously continue to work around this kind of deal here. You're usually not going to fill out the next 2 or 3 pages because, like I said, this is not about GL, that kind of stuff. Remarks you probably will use in certain situations. One more down. Probably. 2 more down. 2 more down. Oh, one too many down. You can use a little bit more here, but there's very limited typing space. Notepad I like to use a lot, like you do too as well. If you have, but remarks, there's a lot of in the first box. There's a lot of typing space in here. You can fit most of it in there, but like I said, if you've got too much, use your notepad. And your notepad, like you said, will pull the proposals as well. Whatever you put in that notepad, it'll pull the proposals if you choose that page.
You say it doesn't, not too much remarks. What do you mean by that?
Well, you have a line. You have about 10 lines, I think.
Yeah, but it doesn't fill up the whole box usually.
A new PMR.
But this is the amount of typing that it allows, right here, because he's typing on it.
Well, it's filling up the whole box. Usually it only goes halfway to the end of the box.
You guys keep putting PMRs, and it just keeps getting better and better.
Just let it keep
Yeah, it
running.
just keeps goes. So it goes
Just keep
that.
going.
It'll only go a couple more lines, and that's it. See how the little
Let's see
scroll
how much
bar?
further.
See how the little scroll bar stops?
See if it'll go further. I just want to
Yeah,
see
it just
how.
keeps.
It's the Energizer Bunny.
That's how much typing space you have.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Uh-huh.
I think if you were actually
crap.
That's a new
typing,
box.
it wouldn't
That must
that
be-
much.
This is actually typing. Okay, so that's the limit. So
And also remember, in these applications or any part of the Accord sections, if you use capitals, it takes up more space. Use upper and lowercase. Do not use all caps because it gives you less typing space. It doesn't like all caps and everything. Lowercase is better, gives you more option to type.
Interesting.
I don't
That's
know
a lot
why.
more room than I was expecting.
Yeah, there's no-
Because
more
I've
than
seen a
normal.
lot of you say, tell me where the.
Certain
one is.
areas, yeah.
That's not certificate.
Yeah, certificate.
It just depends on what area of the.
Yeah, where we have a big ass box and.
Yeah.
much room.
And it only goes on
Yeah.
top of it, and the font's like,
So
miniature.
So this area, you can type additional stuff. Like I said, if you have a lot more, then go say, see remarks, see notepad. But tell people that you're pointing to somewhere else. If you know you're going to a different part of an app to use it, say, see this part of the app, see remarks, see notepad, see whatever. So that way, that person who looks it up says, oh, that's why it's not in here. It's someplace else. You know what I mean? But those are basically shell applications. You can talk about. And now it'll pull to, summaries and pull to basic
Proposals.
information to proposals, basic summaries. To certificates of insurance, it will fill in parts of those boxes as well. You want to do a cert on that just to see what happens? Not a whole lot.
we're running late.
Okay,
We
never
got
mind.
name changes.
Alright, never mind.
Okay. So our second to last topic is name changes. It's okay. Yeah, I'll go over that. Also, Patty just reminded me, north side of the building, the color printer, Net Print 11C. Do you guys know what the color printer is down here?
No.
Net Copy 004C.
Could we come up with more complicated names?
That's pretty simple. It's
It's
pretty.
in the coffee machine, it's the coffee machine.
The yeah, the main one by you guys, I think, is the same one.
If you guys need help adding that machine, let me know. And also remember, when you're printing proposals, doing drafts, wait until you're ready to print the insurance copy before you print on the color machine. Please don't print the drafts and everything. Print it on the black and white.
Is there a way to print to a certain drawer on that one so I can make sure I get it on the bond paper? There is? Okay, I'll have it.
Yes. And one, I know I probably shouldn't. Carrie, do you mind if I show what we worked on this morning, in case anybody else runs into that?
Oh God, okay.
Yeah, this was Dan was on his way out the door to go see a client, and it's the second one.
Yeah.
Is it a prospect or is it a customer?
It's a customer.
Oh.
Hopefully, I haven't talked to Dan yet.
It's that one, the third, see that?
That one right there?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, so let's see if John can figure this out.
Oh.
So she came down right before Dan was about to go. It looks very nice. She did a good job with the logo and everything looks good. But oh, what happened? The page just shifted over.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so the whole proposal got shifted over. Does anyone have an idea why that happened? We copy and paste.
Alien intrusion.
Well,
You inserted something it didn't like?
I inserted a,
that's good.
Kyle helped me insert a Chubb proposal for the cargo portion.
And in the Chubb proposal
It has its own stuff.
was this little guy right here. John knows what that is.
Yeah.
Reviewing sometime, and this is something we'll go on over in an additional class. If you're working on a Word document, sending it back and forth, you have the ability to review, to show. John does this a lot for his contract work. He'll put his stuff in one color and multiple revisions, use different colors. But what it does is it shrinks the page size over. So if that happens to you, go over to review, and you do not want to show markup.
Show final.
Final, and the proposal is fixed. Ta-da. So anyways,
It doesn't stay fixed. Like you have to fix it every time you go back in.
If you save
If-
it this way, then it stays fixed.
there's no.
No, why
I
not?
was surprised. There's something with the formatting with how it copied, but I'm not sure.
That's odd.
We'll have to fix it. But
The original document was saved and hard edited, where you eliminate the
Yeah.
editing ability on that.
It's
on their
secured.
end.
the
So
document has
secured.
its own secured.
Okay.
Then it's got
So if it was saved that way from them, then we can't resave it another way.
I see.
Well, there's things we can do. But anyway, so back to name changes. I want to
Good job,
blow.
by the way, though.
Yeah.
Look good.
Thank you.
I like that.
I was so happy to show it to Dan. I'm like, here's the proposal, like, this is your copy. Like, he was gonna go through it, because he hadn't seen it yet. And I go, here, go through the insurance, so you can see what theirs looks like. And he just opens it and goes, huh. I was
Just smack
heartbroken.
him.
I
Just smack him.
say,
Just give him a
wow.
Yeah, he should have been impressed by your.
little. No
No, he
kidding.
was not impressed, not at all. He was
Yeah.
just like, must be something Kyle does. You
Oh.
gotta mention.
Oh.
Okay. So yeah, that's
But it
fine.
looked really nice.
Yeah, it did. It looked nice. You did a
It
good
looks
job.
very good. So, anyway.
So real quick, because we got to wrap up. Name changes. There's a few producers out there.
I would laugh, Carol, I would cry.
When they started, I don't know why they did this, but or at some point they decided to name their clients by their addresses. And I understand there's certain property developments that are like that, but it's very difficult to find them in the system, especially prospects. But so we run a utility every Tuesday and Thursday night, a rename codes utility. If you don't like what your client's named, shoot us an email of what the client name is and what you would like it to be, and we'll go ahead and run it. Now, the problem is there's been some people who said, hey, gave you a name change and a month ago what happened. Well, we don't get an error when the name change doesn't work. What happens, either I make a typo, which is the majority of the time, or you're picking a code that's already in use. So if you do a name change, just remember, if you send me something, look like the Wednesday morning or the Friday morning, and if it's not there, just shoot me an email or give me a buzz. And
Can you do that in prospects, man?
I've never done it on a prospect, but I will find
When you're in
out.
prospects and if you move it to clients, you can make the code whatever you want.
But I don't want to move. I work.
I'll find out. That's a good question. I do not know. But please use this. I have a few people who every single week have names that change. I have other people I've never heard from. So I'm sure some of you out there.
Yeah, I didn't know we could do that.
So yes, please let me know your name, and you can give me as many as you want. It doesn't. It's real simple to load. So discussion. Okay, just one last thing.
Conglomerate.
What's that?
Conglomerate customers.
So like I have veggie grill, and it was first called Better Eating, so I can change that from BETTE to BEGG.
Yes, absolutely.
And along with that,
That's a huge thing, because I gotta tell you that
It
there's
is
a lot
a
of
big
client
deal.
codes that are just.
Make no sense.
Yeah, exactly.
because they were originally set up one way or another. But going along the same concept, if you do have a client that gets mail in a couple of different names or has different named insureds, please set up the conglomerate customers. It helps out a lot. Wherever all your main stuff sits, that's your parent. And all of its, what they call children, have the different named insureds. Or if you have a DBA where it's set up as a DBA, but the finance company or the insurance company or somebody else sends the individual names information over, and nobody can find it because we're looking up the individual name and it's not on here anywhere. We don't know that the DBA is something else, like Diego's whatever, and yet the named insured is Penelope Cruz. Okay? You can't find
Well, now
it.
that sounds exciting, actually.
I can find it.
Yeah, I
Well-
guarantee you, we'll find it. Yeah.
Okay, well, you guys might be able to find it, but we won't be able to find it. So, if you do have
It'll be a
people,
lot of work, I'm sure, but we'll find it.
don't worry, you would be more than happy to find it. Yeah. So set up your conglomerate customers. For those of us that have to find stuff all day long, like the receptionist and the mailroom, and me have to do a lot of the company interactive
So-
coding and crap like that.
But what you're saying there is that, let's take, whatever, the developer, it's ABC Development,
Mhm.
and they have 7 or 8 different projects that are each often individual insured, but let's say we have a COC for this, that gets set up as a subsidiary so that if we get mail, because they usually pay the premium out of that entity, they usually finance, if they're gonna finance, out of that entity, not out of the parent. So is that the way it gets set up?
Well, if it's got its own separate policy and its own different name, it has its own client. But you
Well-
can still conglomerate and match them together
Well,
that they
here's-
belong together.
Yeah, because here's what happens. I mean, certainly most common in contracted developers. You've got the development company, and then they form a whole slew of single-purpose entities to build something or buy something.
You can have a separate client for everyone, because that's the only way you can generate an invoice in that name.
Is that right?
An invoice will only pull from the client name, period.
I see.
Yeah,
So it
or
doesn't
you
matter
change the
whether
name
it's a
insured.
parent or.
Or you can change the name to named insured. But if you're doing it like that, it's easier if you have to build them like that. You can either change the name insured every time you do, which is a pain, or set up all those little dummy ones, but there's nothing in them. There's no coverage, there's no apps, there's no nothing.
Right.
It's just set up to do a memo or dummy bill.
Right, so it's
Okay.
sort of like what you do on
Right,
Page,
right.
what you do on Baldwin.
Right.
Okay.
You set up a dummy bill, but your main company has all of it in the one client code. You know, you can do all your certificates with different names on them and all your other stuff with different names. The invoicing is the only one that doesn't generate off of a different name. But if you do have those and you get money in, or you get something in, or a piece of mail in that you know is going to come in other than the main named insured, you need to have the conglomerate. It doesn't have to have anything on it. It just says the name and it says see so and so, and it points to whoever
parent is.
the
Okay.
parent is. Yeah. And if you go into the parent and look at their conglomerates and you pull that up, it'll list all of its children, whoever belongs to whatever your account is. But it's a lot easier for a lot of people spend a lot of time and waste a lot of time trying to find something in the system because, like I said, the policy numbers may not be consistent. the way you've loaded it, the carriers aren't consistent. So there's a lot of wasted time trying to find stuff. But we need to just make sure you know your named insureds, you know if you have multiples, you know if you get your mail. Start loading.
Okay.
It's helpful.
So one last thing, real quick. You move to a new workstation or you get a new computer set up and you don't have a signature. Do you guys know how to get to the signature block? Okay, so we'll refresh. It's okay. From the home base,
They asked in 2010.
okay. This is just in TAM, but it's
Okay.
yeah, it's okay. Click on Tools, User Setup, and Settings, Mail Setup, and there you can put your signature in for TAM. In Outlook 2010, it's in a little different space because you don't have your options just here. You have to go to File, Options, Mail, and Signatures. So, one other nice feature, and last thing, 2010, I showed in a previous class how to send an email, something as a PDF, which is we would want to do. For example, if Dan couldn't go out and see that customer, we'd want to send them an email. We wouldn't want to send them the Word version where they can make changes and sign it, so we'd want to turn it to a PDF. So you have the file,
Yeah, you don't want editable stuff.
save and send as PDF. And it'll automatically turn this into a PDF and that they can't edit, and you can shoot the email. And this is important too. If you're doing certain things,
Instead of scanning it.
instead of scanning it, it looks way
yeah.
better.
Way better
Yeah,
than scanning it, and so much quicker.
yeah,
You
very
can do
quick.
it right there at your desktop. You don't have to go find a scanning machine, scan it, go retrieve your attachment, and so forth. It will convert it just like that, and it looks perfect. So if it's a color proposal, you're not getting a black and white scan. You're getting exactly the perfect. In fact, can you pull up Carrie's proposal that you just had up a minute ago, or did you already close it?
Let me finish
Okay.
what I'm doing right here, and then I'll jump right over. So, and there's a lot of times when you are sending out an email, you're attaching a document, you're doing things, and you don't have your signature there. I don't know why Microsoft does this, but you've got this signature thing here. Just click, and if you have multiple signatures, you work for multiple producers, you guys work in teams, you can save many of them. We can help you set that up. Just click that, and it throws your signature in. What I learned this week, Larry showed me, which I thought was pretty neat, because anytime I want to save a PDF, I'm sending an email. He showed me a little button that I'd been missing. Let me go back to Word, and save and send. It's in the same area. Create PDF/XPS document. And it lets you save it on your desktop, save it wherever you want. You get to do a small size if it's a large proposal and you want to, if it's coming out too big. Never do that unless it's too big. If it's too big, go back, do it again, and do minimum size. That'll lower the quality, but it'll be, hopefully small enough to send out. So let me go
How
to
big is too big?
20 megs. 20 megs.
And that's a huge.
That's a
file.
massive
good.
document. That's a maximum allowed on the internet.
My mind went.
Okay, so let's go back to Harlan and edit attachment. We gotta wait for it.
Yeah, but we don't want to mess with her document.
I needed, in order, edit document is the only one that's gonna give you the full version of Word. You need the full version of Word in order to change create a PDF. So.
Can't you send it?
You can't do it from view.
But can't you send
No,
your-
because it'll open Word Viewer.
Can't you
which
send
isn't.
yourself this document and then save it afterwards so you don't mess with her document that's sitting right here? I would be afraid that. Or will it not touch it?
I like to live
You
on the
okay with
edge.
that?
You live dangerously.
Okay, all right. I was just.
So File, Save and Send.
It's
Send.
actually changed even from when I did it.
Okay,
Font's
what'd you click?
different.
Yep, less than 1 meg.
So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So how about that?
And so we've got a 50-page document that look how much better that looks than a scan.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
That's the proposal.
Oh,
If you don't have, is that only a 2010 function?
yes, it's a 2010 function.
So I don't have that. No, we don't.
You don't have a new computer yet? Oh, you need 2010.
Yeah,
It's
some
like all-
people have been resisting. So
It's like the Excel class we took the other day. These ribbons on the top, like they're talking about the ribbons that they talked about in the Excel class in 2010. That ribbon is the same in Excel, Word, and Outlook. They just have different features, depends on, because Excel has more editable and picture-y things and stuff like that, where Word doesn't. But it's the same concept for all 3 applications. Contacts, or Outlook, Word, and Excel.
And PowerPoint Publisher, if you guys ever use that.
So if you're using 2010, it's consistent and it's way easier to use. That way you're not having to remember different functions for different things if you got 2007 here, 2008 here, 2003 here, and that. So, how many do we have
So I have
left?
a
2 or 3?
question
people.
about that size, that file size. And if you want to email like applications like your report apps, and say you have like just about every section, and if you were to scan that to be a pretty big file.
Yes.
But if we did just, if you do it from the preview function and just save it as a
PDF.
That's a great, absolutely.
It's tiny.
Is that making the file size smaller?
Way
Yeah,
smaller.
like
And
30
you-
times smaller, yeah.
Yeah. See, the thing is, what does a scan do? It's basically taking a picture of every page, right? And so, if the page is slightly crooked, and they are, there's no feeder that feeds perfectly, and there's a little dust or a little stray mark or anything else, that all just adds to the size of the file for every photograph it takes. And so I've had situations just like that where I've taken something that I've scanned and it turns out to be 30 megs.
Yeah, they couldn't get pretty.
Yeah, easily. Take that same document, rather than scan it, turn it into a PDF, probably looking about that, a meg, maybe 2, instead of the 30 that you got when you manually scanned it. Which, again, if you're trying to send it to somebody, makes it a lot easier and a heck of a lot nicer looking.
Oh, I got my scan mail open. Around here somewhere.
It's Word down below.
No, this is just
Not the
the.
integration, the other one, the other box next to it.
Yeah, but I was doing too many things. I had the scan mail open with the.
You're a guy, you're not able to multitask.
Yeah, no, or my computer. See, this is what it wants me to finish. It wants me to send this out before it wants me to close out of Word. Because, okay, there we go. There we go. There's the email.
Yeah, open the email, let's just see what the client gets. Same thing. Yeah, it is.
57 pages too, and it was only 1 megabyte.
Yep.
And it looks great. So,
Yeah. I mean, anymore you always send out your apps, your certs, all that kind of
The
stuff. If you
only
can,
thing,
like
like
preview.
on this one, I inserted a separate section that couldn't drop in. We tried to put in a scan that XML worksheet and washrooms because they're modeled to 188.
Yeah.
And
Ouch.
it did not, I know, so very not a happy meeting today. But it didn't work. It was very bad quality.
yes.
So I had to physically.
But you could do that as a
Yeah,
separate attachment.
separate
You wouldn't have
attachment,
to have
yeah.
it in
No, it would be nice to have it all as one. But yeah,
But if
there's
not-
certain scans that it did work. You were able to insert and put the PDF in the Word file just because the scan was kind of light. It came through horrible and didn't look very good. So it's not going to work 100% of the time, but usually if it's something like this, so for example, this, if we were to embed this in a Word file because this wasn't scanned, this would look great if this was inserted as an
Kyle,
object.
did the numbers turn out right? No, you were saying her name, put the number in.
My numbers are right on this one.
It worked.
They inserted the whole cargo section is Chubb's
Right.
proposal because it's got so much stuff
Wording
in
in
it.
it.
Yeah, and there it dropped in. I dropped it in the middle.
Yeah.
I mean, I put it.
And it should have
between
renumbered everything,
things,
right?
And
Yep.
it did number properly, so it worked.
We're just going to
But-
experiment. That's cool.
But the thing I'm wondering, if we are going to send something like this to a client in the email, you don't have your divider for 1 to your sections.
True.
Is there a way to insert a page that is a tab for section 1 or 2 or something like that so that it is?
I think that's a separate, that's a
Divided.
different meeting.
You could, but the
That's a big task.
But it is something that can be
technologically it is
Well, we can cover
capable.
that.
Yeah, there's definitely some versions of Adobe which we're not using right now, which you can create tabs and covers and but we're not using those right now. So
But we can cover more of those in-depth stuff in our next proposal type meeting, so that way we only talk about proposals and which can do form and stuff like that. That might be the next.
all right, does anybody have any questions? So who's still there on the remote side? I'm just curious.
They're all gone.
Tommy.
Tommy's left.
Attaboy, Tommy.
Tommy's listening
Wake
for the
up.
whole, everybody else, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody. And remember, I have one last thing. The Excel class, I'm glad that we had an Excel class put on by Chubb, and we had great participation. That was the beginning Excel. Unfortunately, the intermediate class is already filled up. And in the next class that's available is pivot tables and formulas. And if you are new to Excel and you're just getting warmed up, I don't recommend going to the pivot tables and formulas, or you'll never touch Excel again. So what I would do is I would wait until the next intermediate class is available, which it will be. And like I said, we can always do classes and do things here too. But if you are new and basic, I wouldn't recommend going to the pivot table class. So I would wait till the next intermediate,
Classes
basically.
are booked for the 20th, I believe, and the 21st of December. If you want to come, fine.
That's,
So what is a pivot
that's the
table?
intermediate though, I mean.
The intermediates are all booked. I couldn't get
Yeah.
because
okay. So
that
those are
very
the
day
pivot
when we
ones?
had our class, I went in to get a class on the intermediate, and they're all full. Couldn't do it. So I'm sure they'll.
They will do it again. So, and when we find out, we'll let you guys know. And remember, you can only do one per site. So don't start it at your desk. Let's come in here so the whole group can watch. So
Yeah, that's what dates are the.
I think it's the 20th.
I don't know.
and the
I want to go
21st.
to the pivot table, and you and
It's,
Josh.
wanna do
it's,
that.
in the, it's in the schedule.
Shit. I like that. Okay.
It's in the schedule.
If you could just
Is,
remind me of whenever it is.
is that one the one that we're already signed up for?
Which one is that?
The one in
formulas,
December?
the formulas, we are set up for formulas the first day and pivot tables the next day.
Okay.
so-
We've got a recording of it. Or you could have some private time with Kyle.